Hey students, I wanted to go over the study guide here with you briefly that I handed out today. Um, so, uh, so you can be better prepared for the test next week. So I'm going to go through some of these here. So hopefully this is helpful. Um, so you should have already completed this either with a partner or on your own. But if you're still confused on any of your questions, you can take a look at this. But again, the main point, I don't want you to just write down answers here, but I want you to know how to solve these problems, right? The most important part is being able to solve these, not what the correct answer is. So we want to make sure we know how to get there because, of course, in the test, there'll be different questions, so it won't be the same answers, but they will be similar problems. So I want to make sure you have the skills to solve those, okay? All right, so first of all, this first question here is about, it says, Susan is 5 years older than her sister. The sum of their ages is 51. Define a variable, then write an equation that can be used to find their ages. Okay, so there's kind of two ways to do this. I'm going to keep it simple. I originally was going to do two ways. I'm just going to show you one way to keep it simple. So notice we have two ages here, right? So we have Susan and Susan's sister. Okay, so I'm going to say for this one, we'll say Susan's sister's age could be G. Okay, and since we know Susan is 5 years older than her sister, we're going to say G, her sister's age for a girl, plus Susan's age, which is G plus 5, right? So that's the simplest equation here. So we have G plus 5, right? So again, this represents Susan's age, G plus 5. This represents the sister's age, G, okay? So, and again, when they say define a variable, in this case, we're saying let G equal the age of Susan's sister. All right, there's our equation. We could simplify it one step by combining our like terms, which is G and G. So that's 2G plus 5 equals 51. Okay, so that's our equation, right? There'll be other problems to solve, but for simplicity's sake, it's just asking us to write the equation, not solve it. So we could say that, okay? Great. So number 2 here, we have, it states 2 beakers plus their contents have a mass of 180.4 grams. The total mass of the contents is 56.8 grams. Write and solve an equation to find the mass of one beaker. Okay, so we've got 2 beakers, and together their contents have a mass of 180.4 grams. All right. Plus their contents have a mass of 184 grams. Okay, so what is our equation here? Okay, so we see that we have beakers, and these we assume are going to be the same weight, right? So we've got a beaker plus another beaker. So again, to define our variable, we could say let B equal beaker. Okay, let B equal beaker, and we see we have one beaker plus another beaker. And it says the total mass of their contents is 56.8 grams. So we also, those added together, 2 beakers plus 56.8 grams is going to equal the total mass of 180.4 grams. Okay, so again, beaker plus beaker, because that's their 2 beakers, plus their contents, 56.8. The sum of all those is going to equal 180.4 grams, right? Last, we can just do one quick simplifying our equation just a bit. B plus B, we'll combine those like terms. We're saying 2B plus 56.8 equals 180.4. Notice I didn't put the grams in the equation. When you would solve for B, you could put that into the equation, then into your final answer. Okay, but there we have it. That's our equation. All right. Oh, this one does say solve, so we will solve this one. All right, so we said 2B plus, I'll write it over here again, 2B plus 56.8 equals 180.4, okay? So remember, for all these problems, we can always use our don't call me after midnight strategy. It works for any of these problems. If it's a one step, or just probably the A or S at the end of don't call me after midnight. If it's two-step, multi-steps, it works for all those. Okay, so really quickly, we really already did one thing, which is combining like terms. Now that we have our equation like so, our next step, we have distribute, combine like terms, move the variable, none of that applies. Then add or subtract. Okay, so now we want to, we're trying to get b all alone. So the opposite of adding by 56.8 is subtracting. Okay, if we subtract by 56.8, I'm going to use my handy calculator here to make sure I'm not making any mistakes with my mental math. So I have 180.4 minus 56.8, and I have a total of 123.6 equals, right? What's left over here is just 2b. So we have 2b equals 123.6. Lastly, we need to find what b is. So think of what is that 2 doing to the b? Multiplying, right? So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. We divide each side by 2. Okay, you'd end up with b. And once we divide by 2, we're going to get 61.8. Okay, so we should have 61.8 grams, right? So I can write there 61.8 grams. All right, great. Okay, let's try another one here. It says, at a concert you purchase 3 t-shirts and a concert program for a total cost of $90. The program costs $15 and the t-shirts all cost the same. Write and solve an equation to find the cost of one shirt. Okay, so what were all of our costs, right? So we have 3 t-shirts, so we can say T equals t-shirts. I'm going to use a capital there just to distinguish between the plus sign. T equals t-shirts. Okay, so we're going to let T equal t-shirts. Great. So if we have T equals t-shirts, we have 3 of those t-shirts, T plus T plus T, or 3T. And we have 3T, and we have an additional cost of $15. And all that equals $90. Okay, we have written our equation. 3T plus this cost of 15 is a total cost of $90. Great. We can think about our don't call me after midnight strategy. Again, distribute, nothing. Combine like terms, nothing. Move the variable, nope. Now we're down to add and subtract, okay? So the opposite of adding 15 is subtracting 15. So remember, what do we do to one side? You do to the other, right? So we got minus 15 there, minus 15 there. Again, always our goal, get T all alone in this case. So we have 90 minus 15, and we should get 75. And that should equal what's left over here, just 3T. So if we know 3T equals 75, the question is, what is 1T? Again, 3, what is the 3 doing? The 3 is multiplying by the T, so we do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. T equals 25. Okay, so what is the cost of one t-shirt? We're going to say $25 for one shirt. Okay, and this was our equation. All right, great. So writing those equations, a little bit more challenging for sure. I'm not going to lie to you there. It is definitely more challenging, but you guys have been doing awesome, and I know you're up to the task. All right, great. Let's look here. Solve each equation. Okay, so this first one is just a one-step rational equation. This was from lesson 1 here. All right, so again, we need to get D all alone. Always our goal. Have one variable on one side, and then the constants, those numbers on the other side once they're all combined. Okay, so basically we're going to have a D equals something, or in this case, an M equals something, or in this case, a G equals something, right? That is always our goal in the end. So we're just doing inverse operations to get there. So if we have negative 1.4D equals 0.7. Okay, so what is the opposite of multiplying by negative 1.4? We divide by negative 1.4. Divide by negative 1.4. And I'm going to use a calculator on this. So we have, I'll show you what I'm doing, 0.7 divided by 1.4. And yes, I do know it is negative, but I'm going to just leave that negative till the end. So I get a 0.5 or 5/10. So we have D equals this 5/10, 0.5 or 0.5. And just remember, since this was negative, my answer needs to be negative there. Okay, so just don't forget that negative. All right, but I wouldn't bother putting the calculator. Just remember it, double check those things. You can always double check your answer as well. Negative, I'll put 0.5 here. Okay, You can always double check your answer as well. If you take this, negative 1.4, substitute this negative 0.5, negative times a negative is positive. So we really have 1.4 times 0.5. 1.4 times 0.5. If we again do that in our calculator, we're going to get 0.7 or 0.7. And 0.7 equals 0.7, so check. We know we're right, okay? So just check your work, okay? All right, great. We have a two-step problem here with a rational coefficient. All right, so these were definitely the most challenging, I would say, for students, the ones with these fractions in front. In fact, we have a mixed number, which is going to make it even more challenging, but we'll get there. All right, again, two steps. Don't call me after midnight. We don't have a D, C, M. We're really just dealing about the last two. Addition, subtraction first, and then multiplication, division. So addition, subtraction first. Again, we want to get M all alone. Let's get this 2 to the other side. So the opposite of adding 2 is subtracting 2. Subtract 2. We're left with 1 2/3 M equals 1/6. Okay, great. This little tiny part here is a little bit challenging at 1 2/3. In fact, I'm not going to make you do this on the assessment, but we should still know how to do that. This one single step here, which is to solve this, we need to convert this back into an improper fraction. So we have, in this case, 1 times 3 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. So an improper fraction version of that is 5/3 M. I'm going to go ahead and write it over here. 5/3 M equals 1/6. Okay, great. Now, hopefully, this is the part you will see a problem like this for sure. You won't have to do the mixed to improper, but we'll definitely see a number with a rational number like a fraction out front of a variable. So how do I get M all alone? Remember, the opposite of multiplying by 5/3 is dividing by 5/3. But another way to say dividing by 5/3 is multiplying by the reciprocal, right? The multiplicative inverse, as we talked about before. So again, the opposite of multiplying by 5/3 would be multiplying by the reciprocal, which is 3/5. Okay? So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we're left with just an M on this side of the equation, right? But don't forget, whatever we do to this side, we must, that's right, do to the other. We're going to multiply by 3/5. Okay, awesome. So how do we do this, right? Some people just kind of got stumped here. Just remember, really, we're going to multiply our numerators and then multiply our denominators. So in this case, we'll just multiply straight across if we want. We have 3/30. Okay, last step, we want to simplify that, right? 3 goes into 30. 3 and 30 are both divisible by 3, I should say. So if we divide each of these by 3, we should get 3 divided by 3 is 1. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So our answer should be M equals 1/10. Okay. All right. Again, that was a little bit more challenging. Just this part seems to kind of still confuse people a little bit. So make sure when you're multiplying those fractions, right, you're just going to multiply them like this and like this. If this were a whole number here, we're just going to multiply that whole number times 3, divide by 5. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to move faster since there's so many problems to get to. All right. We have number 6. Great. We have negative 14.2 or negative 14 2/10 equals negative 4 2/10 G plus 6.8. Again, just a two-step equation. So again, opposite operations, inverse operations to get G all alone. Opposite of adding by 6.8 is subtracting, right? Again, don't call me after midnight. We don't have a D. We don't distribute. We don't combine like terms. We're not moving a variable, but then we're doing add and subtract, and then multiply and divide. So we're adding and subtracting. Negative 6.8. Whatever we do to one side, do to the other. Okay, those cancel out. We're left with negative 4.2 G on this side. And then the opposite side, if you need a calculator, you can do that. You might be able to do this mentally and get a 21 negative. So we have negative 21 equals that. So again, that's just rules of adding and subtracting integers that we should be familiar with. Okay, last step, we need to finally, okay, we need to get g all alone here. So how do we get g all alone? What is that negative 4.2 doing to g? It's multiplying, so we must divide. Divide by negative 4.2, divide by negative 4.2. Okay, we're going to end up with g on this side. I'm going to have to rewrite it here because I ran out of space. G equals, and again, we have our negative, yep, I'm just going to write 21. That's why you don't want to write negative. It can be confusing. 21 divided by 4.2, we get 5. And then remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we get just a positive 5. All right, great. Number 7. All right. We have the opposite of w equals negative 10 plus 4w. Okay. Now this is one where you have variables on both sides of the equation. So thinking about the don't call me after midnight. Distribute. Nothing to distribute. Combine like terms. Nothing to combine like terms on each side. Then we're up to move the variable. All right. So when we move the variable, we really want to get all the variables on one side and all those constants, those numbers that don't have a variable attached, on the other side. So we want to move this to this side. That would be the best option right now. So instead of adding 4w, we're going to do the opposite, which is subtracting 4w. Okay. Okay. Again, whatever you do to one side, do to the other. So it's equal. So this becomes nothing there. We just have a negative 10. What do we have on the other side? A negative w minus 4w. So in other words, you have a, what's that invisible number in front of the w? It's like a negative 1. So we have a negative 1 minus 4, negative 1 minus 4. We're down to a negative 5w. Okay, if we're struggling at that part, we just got to keep practicing those integer operations. All right, so we got negative 5w equals negative 10. Last step to get w all alone. We got to do the opposite of what the 5 is doing to the w. The opposite is dividing. Right? Cancels out. Again, notice how I divided by a negative 5 because that negative there. We're left with w. I have to write it over here again. They don't give you enough space. And then negative 10 divided by a negative 5. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And again, for all these, I haven't been emphasizing this enough, but I always say, plug it back to the equation, right? If I were to say a negative 2, I'm substituting this 2 back in for w, equals negative 10 plus 4 times 2. Okay. Right? I've just substituted the 2 back in for the w's. So let's just solve this real quick. 4 times 2 is 8. We have a negative 10 plus 8 equals negative 2. Negative 10 plus 8 is negative 2. Negative 2 equals negative 2. Great. We know it checks out. Okay. So therefore, again, we said w equals 2 for that one. Okay. That one, g equals 5 or 5 equals g. M equals 1/10. Okay, great. All right. Let me see all that there. Hopefully that's on the screen enough. Okay. We're going to scoot over here. Okay. We'll just keep rolling. Okay, so we have, get this straight, it's like the opposite of what you wanted to do. Okay, great. Again, we have variables on both sides of the equation here. So we have negative 1 and 3/4 n minus 18 equals 3/4 n. So we want to move the variables to the same side of the equation. Since we got this one over here, this one's all alone, let's move all the n's to this side of the equation. So the opposite of a negative 3/4 would be a positive 1 and 3/4. So I'm going to add 1 3/4 n, and then whatever you do to one side, do to the other. Okay. So you might need to do a little mental math here. Go back to your rules of adding fractions. But if we have 3/4 plus 3/4, or you can think about it as 3/4 plus 3/4, I now have 6/4. 6/4. So to make a long story short, to make it simple, that's going to be this 2.5. 2.5n. Okay. Again, that's a little bit of adding fractions. Those are stuff you guys did back in 6th grade, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. And 2.5n equals -18. Okay, again, to solve this, we're going to turn this to an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So we have 5/2n equals -18. Last step, we want to get this out of here, so n's all alone. So the opposite of multiplying by 5/2 is multiplying by 2/5, as we talked about earlier. Same thing here, multiply by 2/5. All right, so make sure we know how to do this. Again, a lot of students struggle with this. How do I do this part? Okay, these cancel out. We're left with just n. And if you're doing this, easiest thing to do, -18 times 2 is -36. -36/5. Okay. If you put it as an improper fraction, that would be fine. If you converted that to a decimal and you just did 36/5, you'd get 7.2. Okay, that would also be okay. If you want to convert it back to a mixed number, 5 goes into 36 7 times. And 36 minus 35 is 1, so 7 1/5. So these are all correct answers here for this improper mixed decimal. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Keep moving. All right. I'll try to be quick with these. I'm going as fast as I can. All right. Again, we've got variables on both sides of the equation. So you can think about our don't call me after midnight. And we have nothing to distribute, nothing to combine on the same side, but we can move the variable, right? I'm going to move this negative variable to make this one positive. It just makes it, in my mind, a little bit easier, okay? So I'm going to use a calculator in that one to be sure. So if I'm saying -3.6 plus 6.1, we're going to get 2.5. So again, we added 6.1b. And we get 2.5b, okay? Minus 7.2 equals -12.7, okay? So we did move our variables. Now we're going to add or subtract. Opposite of a minus 7.2 is a plus. Getting b all alone, friends. Okay. So we got -12.7 plus 7.2. It's really going to be, I'll do it correctly, -12.7. -12.7 plus 7.2, and we get a -5.5. So we have 2.5b equals 5.5, and as we saw before, that is negative. Okay, last step. If we want to get b all alone, we need to get rid of this 2.5. So the opposite of multiplying by 2.5, dividing. We're just doing opposites again and again and again. What we've been talking about since day one. So again, 5.5 divided by 2.5, and we get 2.2. And again, we saw that was negative, so our answer needs to be negative. Okay. What's there? All right, we're doing awesome. Okay, let me go through a few more here. All right, so we have an online movie streaming plan, charges an annual fee of $45 plus $25 per movie watched. Another plan has no annual fee but charges $375 per movie watched. How many movies is the cost of the plan same? Okay, so this is a little bit challenging. We have two different types of fees here. So when you're dealing with these types of problems, notice some are going to be attached to a variable. Some are going to be constants. They're just a one-time thing. Okay, so a constant one-time thing, and one that varies depending on how much of something you use or buy or do. Okay, so in this case, we have this fee of $45. That's a one-time fee. annual fee, plus $250 per movie watch. So we're going to say M equals movies. There, M equals movies. And it's kind of right off the screen there. There we go. M equals movies. And then we have 45 plus $250 per movie, 2.5 M. And the other one is going to be 3.75 M. And they say, when are these plans equal or the same? So I'm just going to put equal sign between them. All right. Now we're down to using our don't call me after midnight. So nothing to distribute. No like terms to combine on either side of the equal sign. So now we have to move the variable. So we want to move this variable to that side. Remember, if we're adding 2.5, the opposite of that is subtracting 2.5. We're left with 1.25 M equals 45. Oh, screen here now. Little off-camera work. All right, so we have 45 equals 1.25 M. Remember, we want to get M all alone. Opposite of multiplying by 1.25 is dividing. Again, that's definitely a calculator for your dear old teacher. 45 divided by 1.25 equals 36. So this divided out, this was just M, and the other side of the equation is 36. So it takes 36 movies for the plans to be the same. So in other words, if we want to think about that for just a second, on this plan, if you're going to rent less than 36 movies, it's better to have this plan. Okay. If you're going to do more than 36 movies, the cost per movie is cheaper. So if you're going to do 40 movies, 50 movies, this plan would end up being cheaper. Okay. It doesn't ask that, but something to think about. All right. Great. Moving right along. There we go. Where's my 11? There we go. All right. It says find the value of x so the polygons have the same perimeter. Okay. So remember, perimeter is just that length of sides on the outside. We know on this rectangle, if this is x plus 4, we should understand this must also be x plus 4, right? This is x minus 2. We understand this is x minus 2. So we need these two to have the same perimeter. So in other words, they're going to equal each other. So we're saying, where we got space for this one, I'll do it here. X plus 4. I'll do it like, I'm going to do it the simpler way for me. So we have two x plus 4s, and we have two x minus 2s. Okay. You could have wrote out x plus 4 plus x plus 4 plus x minus 2 plus x minus 2, but I'm doing it as a multiplication. All right. And that's going to equal all the rest of this, x plus 3 plus x plus 4 plus x plus 5. Okay, cool. All right, it's a big one here. Okay, so first thing is on our don't call me after midnight is D, which stands for distribution. So finally we can distribute. We're going to distribute that 2 to both those. So we have a 2x plus 8. We're going to distribute this 2 to both of those. So that's a 2x, and a 2 times a minus 2 becomes a minus 4. Equals all of this. I'm going to rewrite that whole thing. Yes, I am. I know you might think all that rewriting is so much extra work, but I know I'm going to get the problem correct. I'm going to have fewer mistakes by rewriting that. Okay, so next we did distribute. Next is combining like terms. Okay, so I got a lot of x's here. So I'm going to combine those two x's to be 4x's. And I also have an 8 and a minus 4. If I combine those terms, we have 8 minus 4, which is just a 4. Okay. So on this side, we get 4x plus 4. On the other side, we have 1, 2, 3 x's. We're going to say 3x. Okay. And then we have a 3, 4, 5. 3 plus 4 plus 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay. Much simpler, much cleaner. All right. So again, we need to get x all alone, so we did distribute, combine. Now we do m, which is move the variable. So this 3x, the opposite of 3x, negative 3x or a minus 3x. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side of that equal sign. Cancels out, we're left with 12. 4x minus 3x, x, and we have that 4. So we have x plus 4 equals 12. Now we're getting somewhere, getting close. Next up we did distribute, combine, move the variable. Yep, move the variable. And now we are up to addition, subtraction. So the opposite of adding 4 is subtracting 4. Again, as we move the variables, we make all these moves, we're always trying to get our variable all alone. He likes to be alone. So we have x equals 12 minus 4 is 8. So we have x equals 8. Okay, and that's it. I can plug it back into the equation to be sure, but for time's sake, I won't do that. So we see that x equals 8 there. All right. Moving right along, solving each equation. Again, don't call me after midnight is our key here. So we have negative 2 times a plus 3, right? So we're going to start with that D for distribute, right? Don't call me after midnight, right? Write it up because he's probably all about it. D, we're going to distribute first. So we got negative 50 equals negative 2 times a and negative 2 times 3. Negative 2a, negative 2 times 3, negative 6 or minus 6. Distribute, great. Combine like terms. Nothing to combine on either side. Move the variable. The variable's already on one side of the equation, so we don't have to move them all to the same side. Add or subtract. Okay, that's what we're up to, adding and subtracting. So the again, we're trying to get a all alone, so we're going to deal with this minus 6. So the opposite of a minus 6 is plus 6. Plus 6. We have a negative 44 equals negative 2a. Okay, last step, we did add and subtracting. Now we're up to multiply or dividing. To get a all alone, we're going to have to divide by negative 2. I'm going to do it like this for time, for space sake. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. That becomes just an a. Negative 44 divided by a negative 22. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 44 divided by 2 is 22. There we have it. A equals 22. So I have 22 equals a, which is the same thing, of course, as saying a equals 22. All right, still moving. Again, don't call me after midnight. We're going to distribute. Distribute the 4. Distribute the 2. 4 times x being 4x. 4 times a minus 2 being minus 8. 2 times x being 2x. 2 times this minus 4 being minus 8 plus 2x. All right, great. So now we're going to combine our like terms. So we did distribute. We're now doing combine like terms. On this side we have 2x's, so we're going to combine that to 2x plus 2x being 4x. 4x minus 8. So we have 4x minus 8 equals 4x minus 8. At this point, you should already know the answer, hopefully. But I'm going to go as an order just to make sure we're there. So we combine like terms, and now move the variable. So let's move a 4x. So minus 4x minus 4x. That becomes 0, and that becomes 0. What's left? Negative 8 equals negative 8. Okay, when we have a situation like this, where we have it simplified, solved, yet there's no variable there, we're going to have one of two answers. Either the answer is going to be all real numbers or no solution, which is like a null set. So in this case, we have a variable, a number that equals this itself. That means no matter what number I make for x, if I make it a 0, it's negative 8 equals negative 8. If I make it a 1, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. 4 times 1 is 4. Minus 8, negative 4. It doesn't matter what number we put in, we're going to get the same answer. We're going to get an answer, okay? So in other words, we'll say all real numbers, and we've also said that's just kind of like infinity, right? There's infinite answers, okay? That's a bad infinity sign, sorry. But there we have it, all real numbers. And on the test, that'll be the phrase, all real numbers. Okay. Remember, if it was, say, for example, -2 equals -8, we know no matter what number you chose, you would not get a solution. In that case, we would say no solution or null set. Okay, but this case, all real numbers because we have the number equaling itself. All right, still rolling, moving right along. Okay, don't call me after midnight. Number 14. First thing is distribute 5y minus 10 minus 2. Okay, so I just distributed that 5 equals, again, distribute 2y plus 2 minus 5. So I just distributed and then copied everything else down. All right, so distribute, combine like terms. So we have a minus 10 and a minus 2. You combine those and that becomes a minus 12. Over here, combine like terms. We have a 2 and a minus 5. That becomes a minus 3. We have 2y minus 3. Okay. Now we're to move the variable. So let's put all the variables on the same side. The easier one to move, I would say, is this 2y. So we have a positive number over there. So let's subtract 2y. Subtract 2y. That becomes nothing. I'm going to rewrite it over here. We're left with the negative 3 on this side. And on this side, 5y minus 2y is 3y. 3y minus 12 equals negative 3. Okay, so the opposite of a negative 12 is, so now I'm sorry, we're after we did move the variable, now we're adding, subtracting. So we want to get this 12 over there. So the opposite of subtracting 12 is adding 12. Okay, we're left with 3y equals 9. Okay, lastly, to solve this, 3 divided by 3, we do division, divide by 3, y equals 3. Okay, again, you can plug it back in the equation to be sure, but we see how we have one solution here, y equals 3. All right, I know everyone's not going to watch this whole video anyway, so let me just try to get a couple more in here really quickly, and then we'll call it on this. Okay. All right, this one just really quick. I'll just tell you the answer on this one. But once you distribute here, you're going to get a negative 4p plus 1 equals 16 minus 4p. Once you're going to cancel these p's out, you're going to get 1 equals 16. And so this one, if you got 1 equals 16, okay, that ends up being no solution for that one, okay? Because 1 does not equal 16. That's a really inequality. So that one's no solution. Okay, I just ran through that one real quick for time's sake. All right. All right. Lastly, I want to look at number 18 because we have one kind of like that on the test as well. Okay. So 16 is, if you just want to check your work, is 12 points. 17 is 15 bulbs. But I don't have time to do all those there. I'm going to skip those two. Okay. Lastly, let's look at 18 real quick. So Tony and friends went to the movies. They bought 4 drinks, 2 tubs of popcorn, and spent $32.50. Each drink cost $3.50 less than the tub of popcorn. Oh, great. So what are we trying to figure out here? Okay, so we need to define a variable, write an equation that can be used to find the cost of 1 tub of popcorn. So we're going to say popcorn equals P equals popcorn. That's our variable we're defining. Okay. So we have 4 drinks and 2 tubs of popcorn. So we know 2 tubs of popcorn is going to be 2p. Okay. And then we know that we're getting 4 drinks. Okay. And what is a drink? A drink is $3.50 less than popcorn. So if P equals popcorn, we're really saying a drink is, I should say drink is, we're not using another variable, we're only using one variable, but a drink is P minus $3.50. Okay. Because it's $3.50 less than the popcorn. Okay. All right. And how many of those drinks are we getting? We're getting 4 of them. Okay. Does that make sense? It's a little challenging. So 4 times this price of the drink, 2 of the popcorns. Okay, and all that is totaling 32.50, 3250. Okay, so that is our equation. That is really the tough part. If we to solve the equation, again, for time's sake, we've been through a bunch of these. I wanted to go through this, but you're going to distribute it, right? Combine your p's, which ends up being 6 p's. Then you're going to get rid of this 350, which is now 1214. You're going to add it to this side. And then lastly, you're going to, if you have 4 p's and 2, you have 6 total. You're going to divide by that coefficient of 6, and you'll end up with $7.75 is the price of 1 tub of popcorn. Whew, tough one, okay? The one on the test won't be quite this tough. It's not going to be a subtraction part here, so that should make it a little bit easier, but a similar idea, okay? All right, if you stayed with me for even half of this or part of it, thank you. If you still have questions on some, let me know. But again, this should just be a check. You can check any of your work, know how to do it. Okay. All right. I guess that's all. Thanks for all your work. You guys have been awesome. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And good luck on the test next week. All right. Thanks.